Years ago, we decided that we were going to find people who had a real understanding of what we were doing, that was in harmony with what we were doing, and we were going to invite them to become consultants in our company. And we made up our mind we would build a company that operated all over the world. Well, Hina Khan was one of those people. She was a woman that had a very successful psychotherapy practice going, had done very, very well. But she saw what we were doing would take her to a whole new level, help her reach a lot of people that she hadn't been reaching, and more effectively. And she joined us. Hina Khan, out of over 1,200 consultants we have, scattered all over the world in many different countries, is one of the top consultants in our company. I always am happy when I see Hina and see her results, because I've watched her grow her business. Something like a rose would open. She's just in bloom. If you have a chance to sit down with this woman, I shouldn't say if you have a chance, make the time to sit down with this woman and really listen carefully to what she has to say. Now, there's something I learned about listening one time. We hear with our ears, but we listen with our emotions. You can hear something and not be listening to it. Your mind could be off somewhere else. Keep your mind intact. Let yourself get emotionally involved with every idea she shares. I'm going to tell you, it's like she's cracking eggs all the way. There's just a new idea coming out of the woman every few minutes. And they're ideas that will improve the quality of your life to a degree beyond maybe anything you can imagine right at the time. She has the ability to show you how to multiply your income. Now, that in itself should be worth the time, because the average person has no idea how to earn money. School doesn't teach us how to earn money. She has the ability to show you how to create meaningful relationships. And you know, most relationships are not as strong as they should be. But best of all, she shows you and she will explain how to create a great relationship with you. And when you are at home with you, you're away to the races, because that's what it's all about. To thine own self be true. Such great advice. Hina Khan is an extraordinary woman. She has a very extraordinary understanding of how the mind functions and how anyone from a teenager to the great-grandparent can take, like that, with a very few decisions, change the direction of her life. I don't know what you want, but I do know this. If you will sit down and tell her what you want, she can show you how to get it. I'm glad Hina is a friend of mine.
Okay, now wasn't that fantastic? For anyone that doesn't know, that is the late Bob Proctor. And Bob is one of Hina's mentors. And I have to share that I think it was hilarious that I was the only one that watched the whole video. And then I just realized when someone sent me a note saying, Gabby, do you want to start the video? So, we can laugh at our bloopers, right? Okay, so thank you for joining us today. We're so happy to have you. I have a quick question for you in the chat box. Okay, think about this. Think about what your annual income is. Okay, what's your annual income? Write one word in the chat box, how it would feel to have your annual income be your monthly income. What's that one word? How is that going to feel? And while you're doing that, I would love to share with you that we are welcoming you. You have been invited to this. This is an elite session, an elite training session. We have not advertised this. You've received a special invite from one of us on our team because Hina sees something in you. She sees that you have the capability to be a millionaire, just like she is. Hina is a self-made millionaire. She's a mom of two fantastic boys, a mom of two amazing dogs. She is a wonderful wife, a peak performance mindset coach led by intuition and spirituality. And I have to say, for anyone that wants to know some really cool tidbits about Hina, she loves sushi. She doesn't like to pack. And when she was pregnant, she ate 1 to 2 watermelons a day. I know. So what was great about Hina is she's an incredible philanthropist. She shares her golden nuggets, and that's what's happening today. You are going to learn how to make your annual income your monthly income. Please raise your hands and help me welcome Hina Khan.
Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to this special call. As Gabby said, this was invite only, so we're going to dive right in. And here's how the call came to be. In my client community, and there are a few clients here, you know that we had started in when we did our morning calls, we started with the idea of like, what would it be like to make what you made in 2023 in January? Anybody up for that? Well, there were clients that were up for that. And in fact, one client did it. One client realized that actually she did it. So just imagine within the first 2 weeks of January, actually within the first week, she made her annual income last year. And this is something that actually happens often. People reach their stretch goals. So your stretch goal may not be to make your annual income in a month, but money is really great because we can work with the numbers. So it's a great place for us to start today, but I want you to think of a stretch goal. And a stretch goal is something that you don't know how to do. And here's what you're going to realize that my clients have realized is that it's at first it's kind of maybe hard to get your head around because you're like, how am I going to do this? But one of the things that I teach is that the how is none of your business. And when you can let that go, it actually creates so much clarity for you. Decisions will be made a lot easier when you're thinking from that stretch goal because it eliminates a lot of the things that you're doing right now. So far, does that make sense? That having a big goal actually eliminates many of the things you're doing right now. Wonderful, Sharon. I'm so happy to hear that. Perfect. Roger, Tara, great. Joanna, beautiful. So today you're going to see how you can do this for yourself. So I'm kind of taking some of the concepts that I teach my clients and we're going to distill it down and we're going to be with you. I think we've got about 90 minutes. So what we're going to talk about in this 90 minutes, and you may want to have a notebook and pen, is deciding on your revenue goal unapologetically. Like, what do you really want? We're going to understand the process to let go of any excuses or limitations that are in your way, along with understanding your set point, your financial thermostat. We're going to do that. And then we're going to talk about the right action for you to start taking today. I'm also going to open it up to a Q&A, and we can do some hot seat coaching as well for anybody that would like that. So you've been invited and we are hosting you. Just like if you were invited into my home, which you are invited into my home and we are hosting you. So you are our guest. And what's most important here is you. What's most important here is that you get what you need from today. You are showing up live. I know we've got people listening to the recording. So if you have questions, if things come to you, please write them down and use this opportunity to ask them. Nothing is off limits. You can ask me anything. You know, sometimes when people want to know something about me that others might not know, we got to dig back to pregnancies and eating watermelons because I'm so transparent. So there's nothing that's off limits. If there's something that I can share with you, if there's something that I have done and you want to know how I did it, I'm going to share it with you. Anything I can do to help you. And I'm going to tell you something. I think that's what makes us different as an organization. And what I would say our unique ability is that we have a way of connecting with people, creating community, which is like no other. You can be in a group like we've got, 37 people on this call, but you lean in, and even if you're listening to the recording, you're going to feel very quickly like I am talking to you. You're going to feel very quickly the intimacy of this, even within a group. That's what we do. And I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of our team. I'm proud of the things that our clients accomplish in this framework that we have created. The last few years, we've done something called an NPS. Does anybody know what an NPS is? If you do, put it in the chat. Or you can write yes or no if you don't. Net promoter score. That's right, Tamara. Net promoter scores, Stuart. So we've done that. And we have consistently been over 80%, which means that what that means is how likely is it that your clients would refer you? How likely is it that they would be telling people you've got to work with this organization? We just did it recently for 2023 and we were at 87%. I'm very proud about that because what we do is not transactional, it's transformational. And you know, when you start to do this work and you see the changes in your own life, you just want everybody to have it because you it's so interesting. You want to share. And I think this is the thing about the top 1%. If you look at the top 1% in the industry, because we understand, like Bob had shared that I was a top 1% in the industry, because we understand it, we know there's no lack. Like it's not from scarcity. It's like, please, I want you to have this because the benefits are beyond what you can imagine. But it's going to be in relation to how big you're thinking. So Wafa says, when it comes to a stretch goal, should it be realistic? No. Done. No. Example, I'd like to step in my journey that I don't know how to achieve 25,000 a month, or let's say if my salary is 100,000 a year, my stretch goal would be to make 100,000 a month. Okay, I am going to help all of you today figure out exactly what that number should be for you. What is the right number for you? And as you do this, as you lean into it, and as you create it, and as you start to realize it's actually not hard, it's simply a system. And and so that's why it's important to think, who are we learning from? Are we learning from people that have done this? It does not have to be hard. But I want to share with you a few things that have happened in my life since I did this myself. The people that it affected first and foremost beyond myself is my family. So this was just this past summer. This past summer, I was invited to a wedding in Montreal, and it was my co-host. I used to work on a show called Save Us From Our House, and my co-host was getting married. We hadn't spoken to each other in over a decade, but I don't know about you, but do you have any of those friends or those relationships where they can just call you up and just say, hey, this is an important part in my life and I want you to be there. That's what I love about time. You don't have to think, oh, well, gosh, I haven't spoken to you in a decade. I am there. I'm like, Paul, let's get suits for the boys. I'm renting a dress and we are going. So we have had, and I've been able to create for my family incredible experiences. And that includes including them in the journey. They got to meet beloved Bob. It kind of makes me a little teary. You know, Bob loved family. He loved when you were having success because he knew it would affect your family. He wanted to get to know your family. He knew my boys' names. Obviously, he was able to meet them a few times. Paul has been to his office. Can I tell you a story? So Paul walks into his office with his bag, and it's like one of those messenger bags type bags. Bob was not having it. Bob was like, what is that? And Paul's like, it's my bag. And Bob's like, no, I think the bag went there. I don't think the bag came back. Bob really cared. And it was contagious. He just wanted you to have the ability to do this in your own life because he saw how it affected his family and he wanted you to have the experience with your family. So what a blessing. And the thing is, the kids, I think now know what a big deal that is. But at the time, this is just what their mom does and who their mom mixes with. This is their normal. So imagine that too. And then most recently, I brought my family to my retreat in Arizona. And the reason I brought my family was when I knew that this man, my current coach and mentor, Steve Hardison, was going to speak. Now, here's what you need to know about Steve. Steve does not do interviews. Steve was asked to be on Oprah and declined. So it was pretty incredible that he took the time to be with us that day and allowed me to interview him. And that is going to be a podcast episode. Because another thing Steve usually does not allow is recordings as well. He wants everyone to be very, very present. And the reason that I said to the boys, I pulled them out of school and said, okay, you're coming with me to my retreat, is because I wanted them to be in the energy of people with this kind of mindset. It wasn't about me. It had nothing to do with me or them seeing me. It wasn't like take your child to work day or anything like that. This was them about being in the energy of Steve. And it's up to them what they take from it. It's up to them what their memory will be of it. But I know Yusuf has a really cool memory, because when Steve came to the event, he was wearing his prescription sunglasses. And so, we greet him. And actually what happened was Yusuf, who's my oldest, went to go meet him, brought him. And then Steve's like, oh my gosh, Hina, I have my sunglasses. Do you want me to do the interview in my sunglasses? And I was like, Steve, whatever you want, whatever you prefer. And he was like, I think I'd like to go get my glasses. And so I said, okay, Yusuf, do you want to go with Steve to go get his glasses? And Yusuf's like, yes, of course. So next thing I know, the two of them are in Steve's Porsche going very, very fast. What Steve said is, we were driving fast and there's a limit and there's a speed limit, but not necessarily that they were driving the speed limit. So again, it's like these magical moments just start to happen when you lean into allowing yourself to have what you want. If you had told me when I first started working with Bob, the relationship I would have with him, the mentorship and how my life would change, if you told me about what would happen with Steve, I wouldn't have believed you. But the best part is, so many of us feel that at times, I don't feel this anymore, that it's selfish for us to go for our goals, for what we really want. And I look at this picture. It is selfish for you not to. I'm going to say that again. It is selfish for you not to. All of these experiences that my family has had is as a result of me making my well-being and myself my top priority. That's how they were able to receive this. I even took them on a team retreat that I had been doing, and we flew private. I mean, these kids, they flew on a private plane. And then when I took them down to the retreat, Nana went first class. Nana also came. Nana, when she heard, she was like, I'm there. And she didn't know we surprised her with a first class ticket. The boys on that flight, they were at the back of the plane. They were in economy, but Nana was in first class. And then these are some pictures of the family at the retreat. And, so we did this exercise. If you see the picture at the bottom, that's Yusuf with the cowboy hat, and they're building a bike. At the end of the retreat, our last activity was to build bikes for foster children in the Arizona foster system, that they would get a brand new bike. And so it was kind of set up as a competition. And I think we built 6 bikes. And then I love that picture of Imran right beside me, sort of like my bodyguard, standing there right beside me. That was at our opening night, and I'm speaking to the audience. All this to say is that my life has dramatically changed. And my whole family has benefited from it. And I will also say that my team has benefited from it. Their lives have changed as well. Gabby is smiling. Gabby is literally a different person, literally a different person, not only in the experiences she has had in our work together, decisions she is making, how she is showing up. So this work, it's about everybody that you come into contact with. And this happens with you being really honest with yourself. So my life changed dramatically when I began working with Bob because I didn't understand money. And I know that kind of might sound strange, but do you feel like you understand money? Because I can personally tell you, I did not. I thought money was, do I know how to balance a budget? When I thought about money, I thought about that. I thought, am I good with money? I didn't understand about wealth and being a consciousness and money being a habit. Like I didn't understand this. Because like sometimes I know, right? Jackie says no, resistance, me neither, all new to me, Sharon. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you're all here. And can I just say one thing? It's not by mistake or you somehow got this invite. If you are here right now on the call or you are listening to the recording, this is for you. This idea of doing this did not exist last week. Literally, we just did this. I was like, I would love to share this idea that you can make your annual income, your monthly income. We're seeing clients do it. I want to share it with more people. We're like, well, then let's just do it. Doesn't have to be fancy. Let's invite people. Make it really special. So welcome. Annie says, not enough. I don't understand it enough to grow and multiply. Annie, I was the exact same way. So when I first met Bob, I was a psychotherapist and I was trading time for money, because that was the model. And in every industry that you're in, there is a set of beliefs around how money is made in that industry. And in the psychotherapy model, the idea was that you made money when you had a client sitting in front of you, you did the service, and then you would be compensated. It was what we were taught. That is how you make money as a psychotherapist. But I wanted to increase my income. So where I go to is, okay, so I want to increase my income. So what does that mean? What do you think is like what I thought of when I made the decision to increase my income? When I thought of the how, like how I'm going to do this. Yes, Gwen, you got it. Mario, yes. Kimberly, yes. More hours, more clients. But here's the thing. I had a young family and I didn't want to work in the evenings, but I kind of felt I had to because that's when my clients were available or the clients were available, and the clients would dictate my schedule if I wanted to create more money. And so I tried it that way. I did, but I was tired. I was tired. You know, it was exhausting, and then to come home, it wasn't what I wanted. And I honestly felt torn because when I was with my clients, part of me was like, gosh, I'm missing things at home. And then when I was at home, I'm like, I should be building my business. Like right now, I could be with a client. Can you relate to that? Have you ever felt torn, like you're in one place and you feel like you should be in another? Well, that's what it was like for me. And when I was thinking about making more money, I was really thinking, Paula says all the time. So, Paula, for me, I was thinking about, okay, like, what if I want to double my income? What would I do? What if I wanted to, like, if I wanted to double it, this is what I would do. But then I have a mentor, I have Bob, who's asking me to think in a different way, to think in a way that honestly gave me a headache because I literally could not wrap my head around what he was saying, the words that were coming out of his mouth, the concepts that he was asking me to consider and possibly accept. But I was able to do it. And that's what I'm going to show you today. We're going to go through a process today. And then through this work, we've created programs to allow others to do it as well. And to learn how to create exponential results in a short amount of time. So I know that, let me just see, oh, Gabby, will you let me know when Ashima is here? Okay. You know what? I may just continue on this train before we get right into the exercise. Just give Ashima a sec to jump in because I know she wanted to share something with you. Oh, she should be here in 5 minutes. Gabby just told me. Okay, so then let's get started. So what we have to do, and this honestly takes so much courage to be honest with yourself. Put aside judgments, what anybody thinks. I want you to write down what it was that you made last year in 2023. You don't put it in the chat. Just write it down for yourself. Okay. And now I want you to take that number and divide it by 4. I know it wasn't like 4 even quarters, but let's just do that. Revenue, Carly, revenue. What was your revenue in 2023? It's just easier to get. And so some of you are in employees, so your salary in 2023. And then you're going to divide that into 4. So now just take the first quarter, like take 1 quarter of your 2023 revenue. And I want you to imagine, what's the date today? Today is the 19th. That by Feb 19th, like 30 days or so, you have made a quarter of what you made last year in 30 days. How would that feel? Exciting. Great. And does it feel empowering? Beautiful. And does it feel like okay? Like does it feel like you would be okay to receive it? Like you can see this? Yeah, I could receive that. Perfect. Okay, great. So now what I want you to do is take half of what you made in 2023 and imagine it is February 19th and you have generated whatever that number is. Look at that number. And how does that feel? Incredible, Sharon says. Scary, Roger says. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful, Amanda says. Fantastic, amazing. Does anybody else, impossible, Crystal says, I love this. Thank you. Bianca says, like I could conquer anything. Does anybody else feel like it feels a little scary? Yeah. Okay, beautiful. So we're seeing the variety of here. And I just want to thank you again for your honesty and transparency, because that, the quicker we can get to that, to the honesty, the quicker you can start moving in the direction that you would like to. Okay, beautiful. Now let's take 3 quarters. 3 quarters, write that number down. How does that feel? It's Feb 19th. That is what you've created. Now Laura says impossible. So I want you to be aware. I love that, Laura. I want you to be aware of where for you it starts to get a little wobbly. Because it's interesting, because for some people, a quarter of last year's, yeah, I can accept that. Half, yeah, I can accept that. 3 quarters, I can't get my head around that. That starts to feel impossible. For some, that's, half may start to feel scary. Now what I would love you to do is do the full annual income. Write down your full revenue, annual income for 2023, and imagine by Feb 19th, between now and then, that is what you have created. How does that feel? Mind blown, divine. Sick to my stomach in the best way impossible. Okay, beautiful. I'm going to bring up Ashima now, and then we're going to go back to this. I know Ashima just has a few minutes, but she really wanted to share. So she was like, she's coming on the call for a few minutes, and we appreciate that so much. Carly, book me on it too. I'm coming on that private jet right there with you. I love it. Okay, Annie says it feels great, but it means I need to change. I love it. Hi, Ashima.
Hello. I want to say good morning, but I know it's like 12:30.
It's
How are
12:30.
you?
Can you tell me how much time you have with us?
I have time. I made time.
You made time. Okay. Thank you, Ashima. So, Ashima, as you heard, what we've been talking about is this idea of making your annual income your monthly income.
Mhm.
And you're somebody that has created seven figures. You're somebody that I've seen the trajectory of even decisions like to have people pay in full.
Mhm.
And so I would love for you to just share, Ashima, where you were before in your thinking about making your annual income your monthly income and what you feel started to shift within you that allowed that to be such a possibility that when I said to you, do you want to do it this year? You were like, yeah, I already know how to do it. I
Yeah, of
mean, like for you to be at that place, will you share that for us?
course. First of all, thank you so much to Hina and team. I'm so honored I get to share this. So I think for me, um, it's always easier to get my energy behind what will serve my clients better. That's the easiest. And the kind of client. So for context, I own a marketing agency and we serve course creator and coaches and we do ads for them. So marketing. And what I realized was my clients actually preferred to pay in full for the year. And the moment I realized that the switch went up, it was like, yep, it's easier for them. And I think something in me shifted where I was like, this is better for me too. I think I've been thinking about it and I feel like what I did for myself, and I caught myself, I was talking to my wealth advisor and then I was chatting. I'm like, I just don't feel good if I'm not like sitting on 100K. And I mean, the investments and everything is different, but and I caught myself saying that, and I think that's my financial set point now. And it wasn't like a year ago too, but now I expect like that number in my account, if that makes sense, on
Yeah.
top of everything we make. So I think the shortcut was the client is like, oh, it's easier for them. So obviously it's easier. It's good for everyone. And then, yeah, I think it's hard actually to pinpoint what exactly shifted.
Well, I can tell you because see, this is the beautiful thing is that we see the journey of the clients.
Mm,
And what I love is that what Ashima's memory is that, yeah, it happened. And as you're hearing it, doesn't it feel like, oh, that was so easy? She just made a decision.
mm,
And I tell you, Ashima, this is now I'm going to remind you,
yeah.
you didn't know if you could receive a lump sum.
Yeah.
Do you
That,
remember that?
yeah.
And I remember the first time that you got 40,000 at once and you were like, do you remember? You were like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I was like,
right.
holy. Yeah.
Yes. So it's so, and you can see the difference where Ashima is right now. She forgot about that because it's not part of who she is because she's so comfortable receiving. But part of her work was to be able to receive it and also to understand that it was a possibility to even make her annual income in a month, to even accept that idea.
Yeah.
Also, can I say, accept the idea without having to hustle and grind.
Yeah. I think that is the most, and I think the moment we remove ourselves from the actual activity and we follow what output and transformation we create for our clients and what value we bring, it becomes easier too. But no, you're so right. I remember that call that we had, and honestly, ever since, almost 80% of my clients have chosen to pay in full. So it's just become easier and easier. It's easy for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
but here's the thing. Here's
Yeah.
what I want you guys to know. Do you know? Okay, we're going to get to this in the next bit too. You know why they've chosen to pay in full? Because Ashma is available to receive in full.
Mm.
Ashima is asking for payment in full. Ashima is suggesting that that is the best way for them to pay.
And I believe it. I genuinely do.
You do genuinely believe it. And I remember before that, I also remember that you had a paradigm. Oh, I kind of like it month to month, like receiving it month to month, because there can be a paradigm like that that amount feels manageable for where my self-image is at. And please share, Ashima, what's coming up for you.
Yeah, it's just because I come from corporate and we're used to salaries, like monthly salaries. So when you switch to like business full time, you're like, I want to create the salary, and then you double it, you triple it, and then you get to maybe, like in my case, you get to 10x the monthly amount, and that feels still, because you have a reference point, like, oh, monthly, but then it doesn't even occur to you that it can be seasons, like you can all of like the possibilities you have. I think I needed to be aware of it, that, oh, this is common, people do this, you know?
Yes, because you were not in a room where people talked about money in this way. You were not in a conversation where people talked about creating this through ease, joy, and love, by creating this through understanding and having awareness, by creating this through a mindset, through creating it through self-image. Especially in your industry, you were around a lot of a different way of looking at building a business too, which is you want more, you just got to keep going. It's hard, and then you will get the reward.
Yeah, and I remember like December or January, like 12 to 13 months ago, basically, I was flying to Canada. I was coming back and we were starting the year. And I actually had this thought, a download. Now I know that I actually want to get to my goal with only 10 VIP clients for the year. And I did that way, which was my way of doing it, with ease, joy, and fun. Like I didn't believe like, oh, I needed to serve a lot more people, because I didn't want to. I can still create that impact with those people. Yeah.
There's so much I love about Ashima. But the one thing we always say, and I did a whole podcast on it, the podcast episode was titled from something Ashima said. Ashima said when she'd first kind of just found me or saw me on social media, she said, what did you say, Ashima?
Who's that brown girl on a private jet?
Who's the brown girl on the private jet? Because it was just something that you don't usually see. And I think that just opened up like, oh, that's also for me. Oh, I can have that as well. And what Ashima did is she created a way that worked for her. And this is what we're going to get into next. So Ashima, what do you think? I'll just ask you one more question. There was a time when you did not have the awareness or the belief that you could create your annual income in a month. So what, if you had to distill it to one or two things, what was it that made the difference?
Great question. I think the number one thing was like seeing it, like other people do this, and just like believing the possibility for them, and them actually like listening to you, like seeing other people in our community. And that was, I think, huge for me. I also think I remember when I shared my goal with you, and I remember you saying, oh, easy. And then I think I borrowed your belief in me first. I think that was the first step, and then it became really easy. Yeah.
Ashima, thank you so much for, coming on and sharing your story. It's so inspiring. And I know you are in one of our elite programs now, so you're just getting started, and it gets better and better and better. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So one of the things that you noticed that Ashima said was that she created a new model when she decided what she wanted. So this is why I had said that it's actually easier for you to create a stretch goal and hit it than it is to hit a goal where you just 2x. Because if you're going to 2 times what you're doing, if you're just like, oh, I'm just going to double it, you'll just do double what you're doing. It doesn't require a different model. It doesn't require for you to think differently. It doesn't require you to let go of what you're doing. So does that make sense? And so when you think about what you have written down, do you believe that it is possible for you to make whatever it is, a quarter of your income or your full annual income in the next 30 days? Bianca, I do now. Yeah, you know what, Bianca? This is what I love. I love that so much because I didn't know. I didn't know. Like I didn't know until at one point I was Ashima. I was with a mentor. I was in a community and people were having these conversations and I was like, what are these numbers? Like, are we talking over a lifetime? Are we, you mean 30 days or 30 years? Like, because it was so wild. But then you start to see it and it's happening. And what you realize is, oh my gosh, I have the exact same potential in me. And first of all, Sharon says, I want that. First of all, Sharon, I had to even get my head around that I can want that. You mean it's okay to want that? You mean I'm not greedy if I want that? You mean that actually it's living, from my highest self to want that? Actually, it will benefit people to want that and go for it. Elle says, I don't know what I would need to change in order to 10x, but I know I want to. Yeah, that is what we do. The program that Ashima had talked about in our signature program, that's the work. That's exactly what you figure out is what would you need to do? But I'm going to help you with that because we're going to do the next part now. The reason that you don't know what to do, and it's a good thing that you don't know what to do, because first of all, you don't need to know what to do unless you've made the decision to do it. Now, I know some of you are like, huh? Well, you don't need to know how to 10x your business. You don't need to know how to make your annual income your monthly income. You don't need to know how to have the relationships that you want to have, the lifestyle that you want, unless you're going to decide that's what you want. Does that make sense? There's no reason to know. Now, once you make the decision, I think all said that they, made the decision that yes, I want to know, then the first thing is understanding. There's two questions that we ask. Are you willing? Are you able? Are you able? 100% you're able, because you couldn't have the idea if you were not able. Ashima just showed you that you're able. I have showed you that you're able. Other people that you'll hear from can show you that you're able. But are you willing? Are you willing to do what it takes? And I don't mean like working all hours of the night. I actually mean letting go of a lot of things that you're doing right now that's working for you right now in your current model. Because the version of you that has this is not the version of you right now. So the Ashima that you just met is not the same Ashima that I started working with years ago or a year ago. It's not the same version. It's literally a different person. She has a different consciousness now. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of believing. It's different habits. It's a different relationship with money that she has. It's a different consciousness. She has a wealth consciousness now, and a wealth consciousness in all areas. Wealthy in relationships too. Just got engaged as well last year. We'll be getting married this year, so that she can have a beautiful relationship and be wealthy. You see, even that is a different self-image than one that she had. So the reason you don't know how is because you should not know how. If you did know how, then you could go out and do it. It's because your current version of you does not have the consciousness of the version of you that has this. So that's why sometimes there's a bridge and you've got to borrow my belief in you. And what this means is that there is a set point. So if you look at what the average is of the last 5 years that you've made every year, like kind of where have you ended up? And just write that down for yourself. Where have you ended up? What that tells us is, oh gosh, yes, Andrea, you guys are going to hear from Andrea. Wedding planning, that's right. What that tells us is what your financial set point is. Your financial set point is how much money you are comfortable receiving in a year. And it's just like it's like any other thermostat. So I'm in Toronto, Canada, and we have the heat on right now, except at night. I don't know. That's when I just stand outside sometimes. But right now we have the heat on. Now, let's say we were going to, and it's set at 20. Let's say we were going to move furniture into the house so the front door is open. And it's like -10 outside. Front door is open. What happens to the temperature in the house? It drops, right? But I have a thermostat setting, so it drops. So then what happens to the furnace? Like, what is it trying to do since it's dropped? Laura says it works harder. Yeah, it's going to work to get back to that setting. Now, Paula, once it gets to that setting, now it gets back to 20, we close the doors, it gets back to 20. Is it still working hard to increase? Is it still trying to increase, or does it that's right, it doesn't. It stays there. So that's like your financial set point. I remember one client I had, she her goal was to do $10,000 a month. She had done $5,000 a month. And whenever she would hit 5,000, she would unconsciously take her foot off the gas and move into different types of activities, go into distraction, because from her thermostat setting, there was nothing else to do. She hit her goal. We are goal-seeking beings. And once you hit it, it's like an autopilot. We go into, and it's all unconscious. Does that make sense? So in our work together, and this is even with Ashima and others, it's holding it that you're not done yet. And so when Ashima had this goal of creating more wealth and revenue, she also thought, but what is the way that I would love to do it? So there's a number, and this is where you get creative. And she's like, oh, I want to do it in a different way. I want 10 VIP clients. So do you see that this requires a whole other version of you? And I think to really bring this home, and we are going to have a Q&A, so please write down your questions. I'd like to bring up Andrea, another bride. So that's another thing. Not only do you hit your goals, but you get married. Andrea, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is so much fun, isn't it?
Right?
Andrea, I'm thinking about you, and as a lawyer, and we were talking in the beginning, Andrea, of how certain professions like psychotherapy had a paradigm around how you make money. It's time for money. And for lawyers, there is a certain paradigm around what constitutes, a good work ethic, and what it takes to build a practice, and what it takes to really make it financially. And I know when we started working together, one of the things was that you didn't see this possibility. So can you just share at that time where you were at?
Oh, yeah. So when we first started working together, I really wanted to figure out how to make the money that I wanted to make, but not live the life that lawyers traditionally live. And we started working together about a year and a half after I'd had a stage 2 cancer diagnosis. And I really wanted to be able to prioritize my health and my time with my children. And I didn't see how I could live the healthy, present lifestyle and make the money. Like I just didn't see any pathway for that because traditionally lawyers work really, really long hours. That's why they make the money. They do make a lot of money, but it's because they sacrifice their health and their family and their time to always be at the office. And I remember I had a real mental block around it. And you told me, I think in a little bit of exasperation with my you were like, just pretend you believe it, pretend it's possible, and think about what you would do differently if you actually believed that it were possible to make the revenue you wanted and also have the time with your family and the time, to look after myself.
Yeah. And I appreciate that you did. You said, okay, I am going to pretend. And part of that has to do with the investment too. It's like, well, I've paid for it. I might as
Yeah,
well pretend because
yeah,
what do I have to lose?
yeah.
And one of the things you wanted, there was a financial goal and to go away with your kids for a full month, which is
That's
like
right.
mind-boggling for others in your industry.
Yeah, lawyers don't take vacation. And even if they're physically out of the office, they are out with a laptop, which is what I had done for years. So we would, I would just work in a different place. But I wanted to actually disconnect. I wanted to close my computer and be present with my kids and take a whole month off. And that was a big goal for me. And I wanted to do that and still have the revenue that I wanted. I wasn't willing to exchange because it's easy to have time off, if you just are content not to have any money. I still wanted to have the money and I wanted the time off.
Yes. And I think you did it that year. You did it in August, right?
I did. I did. And it was scary. It was really scary to leave. But I leaned into it. What would someone who made the revenue and took the month off, what would they do? And that year, I actually doubled my revenue from the previous year, even though I took a full month off.
And so what do you think, Andrea, was the biggest shift for you to create that?
I think what you were speaking about with Ashima earlier, really my view of myself. And so my self-image of a person who is smart enough to figure it out, right? Like this is my goal. And I don't have to do it the way that everyone else says that I have to do it. I can figure out a way that is in alignment with the goals that I have. Does that mean that maybe I won't be on the cover of Lawyers Magazine? That's fine. My life, my goals have to be in alignment with what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. And so I think having those boundaries, we talked about in our time together, we talked about creating things that were non-negotiable. So one of those was in this new life, the month off is non-negotiable. This level of income is non-negotiable. And so once you put those boundaries in place, I feel like your brain and the universe conspires to give you the information. It's what you said earlier. You don't need to know it before you decide that this is all that you're available for.
And what we're talking about here then is self-image and standards. So you were creating standards for yourself, just like Ashima said, I don't go below 100K. That's a standard. That's a standard. That's a new financial set point. And when you do this, your ceiling becomes your new floor as you
Exactly.
start to do this. And what I love is that you did that month. And then I know since then, you have taken your oldest, just you and your oldest did a trip to Europe. Like it
That's
opens
right.
up other things, right? So tell us about that. Like what has happened since with your relationship with the kids?
Oh, that was so much fun. So I got inspired from that to have a mommy and me trip. So I've got 3 kids, and anyone who's got multiple children will know it's difficult sometimes to find time one-on-one. So I came up with an idea that we were going to do a beautiful trip the summer before they go to high school, and they get to choose where they want to go, and we go. And my son chose London and Dublin because he's really into history, he's a bit of an Anglophile, and it was amazing. And what was particularly amazing was I had the time to go with him. And I had the resources to really have him have a luxurious experience. We stayed in a beautiful hotel right in the center of London. He'd never had the experience of being in a five-star hotel and the level of service. He was like, how do they know our name after we've been here for 2 hours, right? He was hanging out in the lounge. It was great. And so I saw his consciousness change about what he's available for. The next time he had to travel with his dad, who's my ex-husband. And he was like, I don't know how to travel without lounges anymore, Mom. It was really trash. So seeing my kids now having their level of consciousness and what's available to them be elevated, and for them to see that it is possible to do this and have a family life and have a happy family life.
And speaking of happy family life, another thing that was a self-image, a different way of thinking, was that you can have all of that. See, okay, so first of all, just are you guys hearing how it's and it gets better and better and better? Oh my gosh, I can take care of myself in a way and build a business and build the wealth. Oh, and I can have time with my children. And I can have time with each child at different times to celebrate them and have that one-on-one time. And the next and is I can be in a beautiful, loving relationship. It can all go well. Andrea, tell us about, I mean, we've met Sean. Sean, like, he's a legend. He's a king. We're obsessed with him. He's a beautiful man that you probably would not have attracted or even noticed the previous version of you, wouldn't have noticed him.
Absolutely not. So I remember that first weekend that we spent together, and you were telling me the vision that you had for my life. And I could absolutely accept the vision of lots of money and time with my children. And then you said, and I also see a beautiful man who loves you and your children. I was like, well, let's not get carried away. Like, I'm willing to, explore some things, maybe not that. But you're absolutely right. The person that I was a few years ago would not have been, he wouldn't have been attracted to me. I wouldn't have been attracted to him. Like, I'm in a completely different space. And the person that I was a few years ago wouldn't have had space for this because I would have always been working. I wouldn't have had space to explore relationship with the time that it takes, especially, early on in the relationship. And so it's been a wonderful experience to have the and. And I spoke to you last year because, as much as your consciousness grows, there's always work to do. And so there was a little bit of, this is too good to be true. He's so amazing. And my relationship with my children is so amazing. And work is going well. Like, where's the catch in a sense? Like, how can you have all of this? And so I kept looking for faults. And you were like, Andrea, yeah, Ashima, it was a hard upper limit. And you're like, he just wants to love you. You don't have to jump through any hoops. There's nothing else that you need to do. You can just be. That's what's attracted. So it's been, I think, one of the great joys that I've seen as I've worked with you is the things that are unexpected. Like, you come in looking for X, and in order to get X, you have to change. So things that you're not even aware of start coming to you because you are now a different person.
And don't you just love yourself?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that great too? It's like, you love your own company. You love yourself. You can figure things out.
Yeah.
When things come up, because they still do. Thank you, Andrea.
Welcome.
I don't know about you, but I am so inspired when I hear these stories. And the truth is, I mean, I could just play you voice notes that I receive daily through all sorts, through DM, WhatsApp, like Instagram, of people sharing what has happened for them. And who they've become is what they get excited about the most. So And isn't it interesting that this all comes from you deciding what you want and getting honest with yourself and knowing that you are worthy of it? The other thread that I want to bring your attention to from a self-image perspective is the thread around receiving. That is something that is a missing piece for many people that do this work. They think that, okay, I've done the work, I've written it down, I am embodying it, but they don't have a capacity, they don't have a consciousness to receive the good that they desire. And it's to what Andrea said, then it's like, wait a minute, too good to be true. Other shoe is going to drop. Bad things happen in 3. What is the catch? Something has to go wrong. And then we do create that because receiving is something that is very challenging for most people, is the ability to receive. So whenever I create my stretch goal, I'm always at the same time saying, allow me to create the consciousness and have the capacity, enlarge my capacity to receive. Otherwise, we will just kind of fling it away. Now, I want to just share one story that really speaks to this idea of self-image. And as I get ready to share this story, let me know in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10, how this is landing for you. 1 being not really, 10 being you're eating it up. This is exactly what you needed to hear today. 25, I love it. Okay, perfect. I like to do that just to get the temperature of the room because, as I said, this is not for me, this is for you. So if self-image is something that you're interested in learning more about, a great author is Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and he really pioneered this idea of self-image psychology. And he talks about a time where he brings the story that Dr. Murphy talks about, where there was somebody that was called in to work with a sales consultant at a certain firm. Now you're going to hear these numbers. This was a while back. And he says, there was this really interesting case. So there's this salesperson who always manages every year to make exactly $5,000 a year, regardless of the territory assigned to them or the commission that they are paid. So what happened was this salesperson did really well in small territories. And because of that, they gave this salesperson larger territories because you would think they're going to do even better in larger sales territories. But the next year, his commission amounted to almost the same amount as he had made in the smaller one, $5,000. The following year, the company actually increased the commission paid to all the salespeople. But this salesperson still managed to make only $5,000. He was then assigned one of the company's, what they would say, poorest territories. And again, what did he make? The usual $5,000. So what happened when they talked to the salesperson was they found out that this had nothing to do with the territory that the salesperson was in or the commission. It had to do with his own self-image. He saw himself as a $5,000 a year person. Now, I want you to think about this with what we talked about with how much are you making a year? Oops. How much are you making a year? Because that's going to be your set point. And so when he was assigned what would be considered a poor territory, he worked hard to make that $5,000. When he was assigned a good territory, he found all sorts of excuses to coast. Right? And this is all unconscious. Is this resonating with you? Like, do you see where you do this in your own life? And once the goal had been reached, he got sick. He would get sick all of a sudden, unable to work. And doctors couldn't find anything wrong with him. And then when it was the first of the next year, a clean slate, all of a sudden he was better. This is what we do unconsciously. We're going to fall to our standards and our expectations. When I say that what we want to do, and Ashima has done this, at one point, having 100,000 would have been a ceiling. Like that's the stretch. Now that is her floor. And this is why clients work with us over and over again, because we're all expanding, because we keep growing, and because at at your new level, there's going to be new things that are going to want to keep you at your old level. We've been talking about this on our morning calls. I don't know if you've been on the morning calls. I've been like just enjoying them so much. We've been talking about how if you want to go for a stretch goal, and for those on the call that are making their annual income this month, it's going to be about letting go of things. Letting go of things that they're involved in right now, which they can't be involved in. And that's a beautiful thing of a stretch goal. Okay, let me tell you this last piece here. And then I want to go into any questions that you have as well. Any support that I can give you, like what is coming up for you. So none of this matters if you don't take action. You can feel like $1 million all day long, and that's part of it for sure. But if you're not picking up the phone, if you're not putting out an offer to 10 clients to be VIP clients, it doesn't matter. And that can be kind of harsh to hear sometimes, but it's the truth. We are here to move into action. We are here to have the full experience. Now, the physical is the last place that it shows up. But we want to speed up that process. So I want you to write now, because we're talking about the next 30 days. If you have your calendar on your phone, or if you're like Gabby and you have an actual physical calendar, let me tell you something. Just grab that, please. Gabby, show it. Oh, we can't see it with but she showed it up there. So here's the thing. You know how, bless your heart, if you're a realtor or you know, they send those calendars. I want to tell you that people appreciate it. Because Gabby does. Gabby not only brings for herself, when we have team meetings, she brings for everybody. You don't leave a team meeting without a calendar. So take your calendar, and I want you to look at what is in your calendar from today for the next 30 days. What you already have in your calendar. And let's say you're going to do exactly what's in your calendar. I want you to put in the chat, will you realize an impossible goal? Doing exactly what you have in your calendar right now for the next 30 days. Sharon says no. I don't have much written. No, no, no. Your commitment is shown by your results. Paula says maybe. I didn't start. Crystal said, Crystal. No, not at all. Okay. So already you've gotten amazing information. Now, you may not want to do a stretch goal in 30 days. You might be happy with where you are. Yeah, Sharon, your commitment is shown by your results. When you are committed to something, you do what it takes. When you are interested, you do what's convenient. And I'm going to be honest with you. Many people, before they start working with me, have a calendar full of what they're interested in. It's a calendar of convenience. That calendar that you're seeing for the next 30 days is an expression of your current self-image. I already know that my clients' calendars are shifting because even on the morning calls, they were making commitments to let certain things go, to move into other things, to do certain things. So you've got to now create the action for the next 30 days that is in harmony with your goal. That is the action that I want you to take. And now you might be saying, that's not going to feel satisfying for some of you. Some of you want to hear, no, I've got to do this many calls. I've got to do this, this, and this. All of that doesn't matter. You're not going to last a week because it's not coming from within you. This is an inside job first and foremost. And that's what we do. That's why our program is so effective. And that's why Andrea's story, Ashima's story is our norm. And for every client, they're at a different level, but you're seeing evidence of the possibility every single day. There is not enough time if I was to bring up on other people for them to say this, but their calendar looks different than yours. And it's not about having a ton of stuff on your calendar. This is the thing. When your stretch goal is actually going to eliminate a lot of things that are in your calendar now, because you wouldn't be doing them. You're putting up with stuff, you're tolerating stuff, you're available for things that you would not be available for. Ashima says, I've reviewed my calendar and I'm doing less calls. It almost feels like I am working less, but I know my new version has more white space in her calendar. Yeah. For those deep thinking. She's the visionary. She's the CEO. Now, some of you may be in, anybody here an employee in a company? And because if you are, you might be thinking, how does this apply to me? I cannot tell you how many employees we have worked with, because we work with CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, where they have made leaps and bounds because they're thinking differently. Oh my gosh, I think of Miriam, who just started, who again, in a corporation, but boy, the things that are happening for her. Okay, I saw Roger's question. Roger asked, what about when you're starting over in a brand new career from the bottom, the fear factor? Okay, so first of all, Roger, you are not starting from the bottom. You are new to this, but you've got to remember, and I know you, and I know the things that you've done, you're bringing enormous value and experience to this. So it's interesting, the language, like starting at the bottom. I don't believe you're starting at the bottom. It might be at a different level, but you're bringing so much to it that you have, and that's what you have to lean into. It's like the difference between the gap and the gain. You're looking at what you don't have. Like, I don't have experience in this new career. You're looking at the gap. I want you to look at the gain and write a list of things that you do bring to this role because of all of your experience. Annie says, I am former government employee and now working for a large corporation. Hi, Annie, by the way. So happy that you're here. So Annie, for you and anybody else that can relate to this, that being an employee, money, we think, especially when we're an employee and as business owners, that money comes from our employer. It comes from our clients. It comes from things. That is not the way money works. And this is what I didn't understand. Money comes through things. One of the way, Annie, right now, that money is coming through and to you is through this large corporation that you work with. It can also come through many different things, many different ways. It can come through, gosh, we've had people where it's come through investment properties, even. It can come through consulting. It can come through, some people have created something where they're talking, but it's coming through their passion. Like, it's something that they would love. So it's understanding money, that's one way it comes to and through you, but there are infinite ways that it can come to and through you, but you have to create a demand for it, Annie. So the supply is infinite. Do we believe that there is a cap on how much money there is in the world? Oh, Annie says, I also have construction company and rental property. So you know this, you know money comes through a variety of sources. And maybe now it's like, what would you love? What would you love where the money can come through? Bianca says, I'm a health coach and chef. Yes. And I hold back on sharing the transformation because I don't want to brag or offer people something too expensive. I know it's a mindset shift. Yes. Period. Yes. Yes, Bianca, it's a mindset shift. And I can relate to that, especially coming from the psychotherapy world. This is what I'm saying. I didn't understand money. I mean, you have to understand, Bianca, the version of me that stood in front of a private jet with Bob Proctor, and then the version of me that took my family on a private jet, was not the version of me that held the belief that I don't want to brag. The version of me that held the belief that I don't want to brag or be too pricey or too expensive, that version of me did not have those experiences. You can either have your goals or you can have your excuses. So the version of me that, so, and let me just say something about expensive compared to what? I mean, it's your health. Like, you know, I was on the phone today. My mom's getting a knee surgery and my brother's with her, and I was listening in on the call with the nurse going through everything. And I'm like, Paul, do your freaking squats. Strengthen those knees. We are all squatting today. Compared to what? Like, you know, a person just started in our program, Bianca, and one of her goals was to make the investment back in the first 30 days. And she had an epiphany that changed everything for her. And I said to her, I said, okay, let's look at return on investment. What is that worth to you compared to what you paid for the exchange here? And she said, it's priceless. So again, people may look at people may look at certain prices and say that is expensive, but I say compared to what? To me, that's still less than what you get in use value. This may sound a little, so talk about bragging, Bianca, here we go. A client could actually not pay me what I'm worth. It's beyond it, you know, what we do, and this is why, God, we're good at what we do. What we do and how we do it is well beyond the financial piece that people invest in. The financial piece, so I just invite you to think about this for your own business, Bianca. The financial piece is not even for the coach, it's for the client, because the client is literally investing in themselves. Sometimes this is the first time the client has said, I'm worth it, I'm going to do this. They would not give it a second thought if it was for their child, if it was for a family member, but for themselves, this is huge. And so even in that moment, so if we look at somebody like Andrea, because I remember before our call, when Andrea had signed up, Andrea was debating whether to work with me. And this was what was going through her mind. The year before, she had invested in other coaching and she thought, now I want to implement. But I knew there was a mindset shift that needed to happen. And I wanted her to for sure implement what she had done with another coach, but with the right mindset. Because otherwise we're implementing on a house full of cards. Right? So, and you know, she really connected with that. And that's when she signed up. And so now all of that other good work she did with that coach, it's really getting embodied because she's doing it with a strong foundation. Stuart says, Hina, please could you talk a bit about passion and purpose with achieving your big goals? Are they essential to have with this system? So Stuart, when we work together, it's one of the first things that I want to know is what do you really want? And it is essential. Because here's the thing, Stuart, you're going to create this goal and there's linear time that goes by from when you're really thinking about it and it's exciting to when you see it in the physical start to happen. It's in that time that people drop off because they think that absence of evidence is evidence of absence, as Price Pritchett says, and that's not the case. It's just stuff is happening underground. What is going to sustain you is being really connected to your why. So remember when I asked, is there a cap to how much money there is? I can't even remember what the answer was. But I think we can say that no, there is no cap. But if you don't create a demand, the supply is not going to come in. So, Stuart, your passion and purpose, that is your demand for the supply. So, Andrea had a demand of the universe that she wanted to create wealth and have time with her family. That was her passion. I want to have balance. I don't want to do it the way others lawyers do it. And I want to have time with my family. I want to create this new model. So now the supply has a specific place to go. She's created the demand for it. So your purpose and passion, and then being in a community where we can hold you to that, because I can promise you, I don't know how to do this on your own. If anybody can do it on their own, then that's fantastic. I needed, because let me give you one example. I'm masterminding with my peers. We're masterminding, and I'm thinking about my private clients. And I'm like, you know what? There's something that needs to change there. Is it the value, the price? Like something's got to change. So I make a decision. So Stuart, we're there, we're in the room, make the decision. I have to step away to do a phone call. So I've got to go up to we're in a hotel, up to my hotel room. We were downstairs having lunch as we were masterminding. Stuart, no word of a lie. By the time I got to the elevator, doubts started to creep in. I left that energy and the doubts started. And so what we do, part of it is your purpose and passion that you've got to be really connected to. And then with a step-by-step process in the system, which Gwen was saying, what are the key parts? This is what helps you to sustain it. And then at times you borrow our belief in you. You know, there's going to be times when you're like, this isn't working, like you're just not seeing it, but we're like, we're seeing it. And it can be easy. And go have a nap, Stuart, and I promise you'll feel better. It's literally what we say. That is sometimes, many of the times, the advice that we give, because it's about touching lightly. And so the process, Gwen, is around it's repetition, proximity, and always thinking like the top 1% of your industry, and emotionalizing it, because it's your emotion that sets up the vibration. That then it's like there's a universal algorithm and you start to see it. And Stuart, I think you're in the nonprofit sector. And I think that, you know what I love? Like when I see people like Andrea and even Gwen in psychotherapy, Ashima in her industry, what I love is that what they're doing is they're creating a new model in an industry that might have been operating a certain way for too long. Right? That's what excites me too. You know, that's like your soul fingerprint. So with the top 1%, when we study the top 1% and we look at, okay, because so I can tell you for me, everything started to shift. So first of all, I put myself in rooms where these conversations were happening. It was normal that somebody was talking about making their annual income their monthly income. And it was so normal that it was just neutral. It wasn't a big deal. And then it was, so if I look back at what's changed for me, my whole environment has changed. I'm in the same house, but my inner and outer environment has changed in the sense of even the content that I listen to, the people that I spend time with, the conversations that I have. You will not find me complaining. And my team can tell you this too. We are not a team that is like we just don't. You will not find us gossiping. And these are things that I used to do. So there are things that are part of my self-image that are not part of my self-image anymore. And one of them is always investing in myself. Hence, I'm going to actually see Steve next week. I'm speaking in Arizona at an event. And because I knew I was going to be there, I was like, Steve, can we please have, do you have time for a session? So I'm flying in. I'm going to go to his house for a 2-hour session. And then the next day at this event. I mean, that's that for me. It's like, I'm there, I'm going to do it. I'm not worried about, but am I going to be tired? It's an early flight, all of that. That used to be something that I would think about. So the top 1% attribute a significant amount of their success to personal development because they know you can't outperform your self-image. At the end of the day, Ashima will have a new ceiling that she's creating, and we're going to work on in Inner Circle, that will become, the next time you see her and talk to her, that's her new floor. They are the top 1% are continuously committed to lifelong learning, and they acquire new skills, knowledge, and insights. Andrea, you're so welcome. I'm so happy. Yes, look forward to the replay. And also, I would love if we could just drop in the calendar link, because if some of you want to have a conversation, and we will reach out to you to know, what was this like for you? What did you get out of it? What changes are you making? What are you going to do now? The top 1%, network and relationship building. Very important to them. They understand the power of creation, of connection. One of my favorite lines is ROR, return on relationship. Relationships are everything. And what happens is you get connected with a group that is thinking at this level, you're going to rise to their standards, or you're going to fall. So this is why who you spend time with is so important. Oh, you're so welcome, Laura. We are bringing this into a close. Please let me know in the chat, what did you think of today? Was this helpful for you? Did something shift for you? Are you aware of something that you weren't aware of before, or in a different way? Oh, you're welcome, Heather. I'm so happy that you came. Oh, that's so lovely. Your most favorite event, Wapa. Yes. Proximity can't outperform your self-image. Great session, says Jackie. Thank you. Oh, I'm so happy you had a big shift, Jackie. That's amazing. Beautiful. Laura says, my accountability to others is greater than for myself. Great awareness. Great thing to be aware of. You're so welcome, Sharon. Jillian, thank you. And I love listening to you. So powerful. You're welcome. Annie, thank you. Definitely want to learn more and explore. I'm so happy, Annie. Carly, that was great. Can't wait for our call next week. Yay. Great session. Paul, I think you're talking to Carly. Are you talking to Gabby? Gabby, is Carly talking to you? Yay. Oh, you're going to love that phone call. Adriana, I know you moved things around to be here. Thank you. Kirsten, grateful to reconnect to why I love coaching. Personal growth is a forever journey. Always, 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 and. Amanda says, so great. None of it matters if you don't take action. Exactly. Beautiful. Roger, this was definitely informative. Love you right back. Stuart says, thank you, much appreciated. I appreciate you, Stuart, everything you're doing. Oh, so happy. Joanna says, it was a great reminder that we have the power within. Thank you for your time. Famita said, what she learned is invest in yourself. Well, on that note, I can just tell you the best investment I've ever made is in myself, and it has changed my life, my family life, my team's lives, everybody I come into contact with. And it gets better and better and better. So with that, I want to wish you a remarkable, beautiful rest of your day. We look forward to keeping connected. And if there's anything that we can do for you, please let us know. Thank you all for being here, for showing up, taking the time. And if you're listening to the recording, and for those of you that would like the recording, you will receive the recording in an email, and it will be available for 48 hours. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.